the privilege of coming to you to share really great information. I say timely and relevant information about money, everything related to money, because we say money encompasses everything. So it's very important for us to tackle issues that we feel are relevant for you tonight. And so tonight we have this really important topic. It's how our mental health affects our money matters. It's very important to understand how your mental health affects your money and how your money affects your mental health. But many times, because we are going through the day-to-day lives, we're not aware of what's happening. And learning how to cope with these issues really is very important. So tonight, we're gonna have a great conversation, candid information, conversation with a mental health provider. This is a woman who does her own show. She's gonna share a little bit about that. And she talks a lot about mental health, and I talk a lot about money. So we together, we're gonna be talking about mental health and money tonight. So stay tuned, please tag, share, make a comment, let your friends know that Let's Talk Money with Friends is on the air every Wednesday. And our ultimate goal is to help you understand a little better about your life, your money, and everything else. So yes, without further ado, I would like to welcome my friend who's on tonight, Marlene. I wanna give you an opportunity to say hello to our friends and also to introduce yourself. And yeah, and then we'll dive into this important conversation about mental health and money.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Gabrielle. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Marlene Papin. I am a native of Haiti, but I've been here since I was in high school. I am a mental health counselor. I've been in the field for about 7 years. I basically work with children from the ages of 3 to 22 years old. Wow. I decided to go into that field after I went through my own challenges when I moved here to the state. It was kind of tough. It was a cultural shock for me. I talked to my friends. Some of them were going through the same thing I was going through. And when I got older, teaching catechism at church, and some of the children were having similar problems too. Then I was talking to a couple of my friends, and that's when I decided into going into that branch and made it my vision, my purpose. There was always a big gap between the parents and the children, especially the immigrants, the people that came from a different country. It's kind of hard. So I'm here with Gabrielle today so we can talk a little bit about mental health. And I do have a show every Sunday at 6 p.m. on my Facebook page. It's also on my YouTube page. It's under my name. So thank you for having me, Gabrielle.
Yes, and thank you to Bordy for introducing me, you to me, or me to you. We have a mutual friend. He watches the show here and also your show, and he wanted us to connect because, hey, money, I'm just like you, Marlene. I say Marlene, but it's Marlene.
It's okay.
Marlene, I decided to learn to study finance and money because I too wanted to help my community, and I wanted to help every community. So why don't we do this? Why don't we talk about exactly, for those perhaps not too familiar, what is mental health? Because we talk about that all the time. You know, you hear people now on, I think it's the thing du jour. Folks talk about mental health, but what exactly is mental health?
Mental health it's a state of mind. When someone is mentally healthy, it means that your feelings, your actions, and your relationships are in good place. They are in good shape. That doesn't mean you don't have stress or sadness from time to time. But it means that you are able to cope with the ups and downs that are going on in your life. And you can also adapt to changes easier than someone who's not mentally stable. It entails your social, your emotional, and your psychological well-being. It helps you to have better control of your thoughts, better control of your feelings, and better control of your action. That is why it is so important to take care of your mind as much as you take care of your body. You have cancer, you go to the doctor. You have an issue in your mind, you depressed, you anxious, you have an adjustment issue, you have PTSD, you need to see a professional to help you stay balanced and stable.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because at the end of the day, many times we feel like, oh, there's a stigma associated with mental health. You have cancer,
Yes.
everybody's like, oh my gosh, you have cancer, please go to see a doctor, go to chemo, do everything you need to do to save your life, right? And they'll stand behind you. But when you say to a friend or families that I feel overwhelmed, I feel depressed, it's like stigmatized. So because of that, many times we don't want to share those feelings, and then obviously it could be ultimately things could happen. So why don't we talk about the fact that in this country, obviously, and all over the world, how many do you think, how many, how has money, because we're talking about money and mental health, how has money impacted our mental health? And is it equitable in terms of like everybody, or like men, women impacted the same way? When you're having money issues, how does that affect your mental health?
Well, what people need to realize is money problems can affect your mental health. That's a no given. According to the Psychological Association in 2022, about 72% of Americans reported stressing about money. But I think that number could be much higher now in 2023 because things are higher. Well, when we worry about money, it can lead to several symptoms of mental health. You can have sleeping issues, panic issues, fear, anxiety, stress, and even not having adequate financial resources may also affect your social life and your relationships. It doesn't impact us equally. It doesn't impact us equally, but there are certain communities like people who are the homeless people who are living below the poverty line, women, yes, more than men, low income household with one parent, and the underprivileged community. So it's different than people who's making a lot of money versus the people who's not making a lot of money. And when you don't have enough to provide for your family, that affects you. And it also affects your kids. Usually in a household where one person has a mental health issue, a lot other people in that same household will have some type of mental health issue.
Correct, because the stress of not having enough, the food insecurity, not having enough food at home, or housing insecurity, not being able to afford an apartment, and facing with eviction notices every month. Oh my gosh, how stressful could that possibly be? Very stressful, because I work in a community here in Boston, and we see how the housing crisis in Boston has impacted so many families' mental health. Not only the parents, but definitely the kids. That's why even hospitals, Children's Hospital is always asking questions like, what's your housing situation? What's your housing condition? Because many times you'll be surprised. I'm sure you're not surprised that kids are coming to school, not school. They're going to school and they're going to the hospital feeling sick because of the housing crisis that they're dealing with. True. Mom lost a job, not being able to pay.
And kids who are coming to school, they're not able to eat breakfast at home. So they have, I don't know how it is in Boston, but in Florida, they provide free lunches for the children. So some kids would come to school. I remember I was working at a school, and this little boy, his mother would always bring him to school very late. And at that time, the cafeteria would be closed. Let me tell you, he would throw a tantrum
Correct.
if he doesn't eat breakfast. But after finding out what was going on with him, that's when we made sure to leave him breakfast. So whenever he gets there, he has food.
Yeah, probably that was the only, or breakfast and lunch were the
Yeah.
only two meals that he was getting during the day. So it's very important to understand. That's why holistic health you just mentioned about it is so important, that we know what's going on, because many times you're judging somebody based on
Mhm.
behavior, right?
Yeah.
A child who's throwing a tantrum, you're like, oh my God, this child is mild behaved, they need this and that, restrictions here, restriction there. When you take the time to speak to the child, then you'll realize that, oh my gosh, the reason why they're going through this mental or even the condition that they deal with, because of the financial stress and financial challenges that they're facing at home. Because a child has plenty to eat at home, is not gonna be fussing over lunch.
Eating breakfast, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
So that's,
like you said, if when we don't judge, we try to find out what is going on. It's better,
right.
especially when it comes to children.
Yeah, yeah. So mental health issues always leads to, as we said, challenges with money. So we were talking offline, and we talked about how some of the signs of mental health, and we, many times folks don't think about that, is shopaholic, someone who is doing excessive shopping. What are some of why is it important to understand the complexity, because between our behaviors, like what we're doing, our mental health and our monies?
Someone who is struggling with mental health may have a hard time keeping their finances in check.
Correct.
Just like you said, one coping skill for me could be shopping. A lot of females are like that. When they get stressed,
and male.
Well, that's true. So
Yeah.
some people use shopping as a coping skills. Others may use gambling as a coping skills. Imagine someone who would use their rent money and gamble it.
Yeah.
And then that leaves the family
in limbo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's also overspending, which can happen for different reasons. First, to make one feel better. Some people, they make impulsive financial decisions without thinking. Or maybe people who just have an addiction.
Yeah.
So when they are unable to meet their financial needs, it may lead to mental health issues. So let's say the person becomes depressed or anxious. That will definitely affect their ability to work, which will get them into more troubles, because if you don't work, you can't pay the bills.
Correct.
So people living with debts are more likely to be depressed or even have suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, I was sharing one of the people that I've worked with in the past committed suicide in actually in 2020 during the COVID height of the COVID-19 crisis. And it was because of financial challenges that this person was experiencing. And instead of, later on, we'll talk about the help that you could seek, but, that person became overwhelmed. So a behavioral psychologist will tell you it's not always the behavior. You need to go deep and find out why folks are acting the way they act. In a child who's throwing a tantrum at school, who's being disrespectful, you have to go deeper. Don't just go over, don't just say, oh, this person, because he's from this neighborhood or he's from that, automatically he's innately bad. He's not innately bad. It's situational. So we talked about how, in terms of mental health, again, we talked about earlier, we were saying like there's clinical, right? As a clinician or someone who is in the field, clinical situations as well as situational depression. So when someone is dealing with a situation that's causing, like a workforce that's causing you to be depressed, or financial hardships, what can you do? What can the person do in order for them to get out of that situation and avoid the money and the depression?
Yeah, if it's you depressed because you're in a situation Well, that can be fixed because sometimes the situations are short term, but you have to think. Let's say it's your job that's giving you stress and your boss is giving you a hard time. Well, you need to start looking for another job before you quit that one because you don't want to add more problems to your problem. So just find a job and get out of that job and live your life and be happy and relieve the stress that you have. Because you short term.
Yeah, it's so funny that you said that. I remember I was like in my 20s. I had this job that I was really proud of and really excited. And you know how we get, right? When you're excited about a job, you give it 100 and more percent. And I was doing everything to show to my, my boss at the time that I was worth it, that I had deserved the position. And because I was doing everything that I could to, impress my boss, other people at the company were not impressed. They decided that they were going to give me hell. Oh my gosh, it was hell on earth. Have you ever experienced that? Like it was hell on earth. I've had every 20 something have had that, has had that situation happen to them. Like when they come to the job place and in the workforce and someone who's usually older decided, you're overzealous, you're too excited. I'm gonna tame your spirit right now. And they decided that they were gonna tame my spirit, and they gave me hell of a time. But eventually, I was so depressed that I had to make a decision. Really, should I stay or should I go? What I need to do? And I went to see my doctor because it was physically affecting me, right? Because it was affected physically, but also mentally. And my doctor sent me to see someone. And she said to me, this is a situation that you have to get rid of.
Yeah.
The only reason why you are a happy person, you are a church person, you tell me at church you're excited, it's on Monday morning. Monday mornings are the bad days for you. You need to change that situation. So would you encourage someone who's going through a situation right now, again, because money and mental health correlates, it's really important that you find a job first. I had to do that first, right?
Yes, definitely. You need your peace of mind. Your peace of mind, to me, my peace of mind is very, very important to me. So if you don't feel right in the place, you don't feel happy, you go into that job every single morning. Imagine. And when you're not happy, you go back home, you bring that unhappiness into your home, and it's going to affect the members of your family. They can have mental issues too. So it's best once you figure out, this is the reason why I'm so stressed, then you need to figure out a way to get out of it as soon as you can.
Yeah. And they say, like you said, the study that mentioned how men and women in terms of like the equitability of the stressors, money being a stressor. But at the end of the day, disproportionately, women are more concerned about issues related to money, and they're impacted. But when men are impacted with this situation, that's when in many households, folks have experienced domestic violence, because when a man is struggling to pay for the family's everyday needs, all of a sudden he might internalize that and get angry with himself because how is it I'm not able to provide for my family? And instead of finding help, which we're going to talk about, they really take it on, like you said, on the closest person to them. And it's usually the family, the wife or the children and everybody else who's close to them, right? And it happens to women too. We want to be equal, in terms of like, we don't want to sound like we just judging men.
No, but
women,
sometimes the women, they are more open to talk about it than men are. So that's a big difference.
That's true. Women, if we're going to, like, I remember when I was going through that situation, I had friends at church. I talked to them about it. We prayed about it. They gave me scriptures to fight against it. Like, it was like so amazing because I actually created long-term friendships over that situation. Whereas for men, you're right. They'll be like, no, let me just internalize this. Let me privately deal with this. And meanwhile, the rage and anger could lead to behaviors that they really wouldn't want to, outside of that situation, they wouldn't be that person.
Yeah, definitely. That's
so So many times it's situation that we dealing with right now that's causing us to become depressed, situation that we're dealing with right now that's causing us to maybe not knowing how to handle money, right? But we talked about, you had mentioned PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And you as a professional, please explain what that is, and also how have you seen it in relationships to like some of the clients or the people that, or in common, like what are some of the ways PTSD could affect us in our financial management?
Okay. PTSD is a mental health condition that results from a series of emotional and physical reactions in individuals who have witnessed or experienced a traumatic event, such as a natural disaster, an earthquake, a flooding, someone who's in a war zone, being sexually assaulted or being sexually abused, being in a car accident, a death in the family, that all of that can lead someone to have PTSD. So there are lots of signs for you to realize that, okay, if I'm having a couple of those signs, I need to do something. So the signs you might see in relation that are in relation to money when it comes to PTSD. People will experience emotional, psychological, and physical symptoms. We usually call it financial trauma, even though we don't diagnose it financial trauma. So the person may get nervous often, flashbacks of the situation, the event. The person may be panicked, agitated, and sleeping issues, having a hard time falling asleep, having a hard time staying asleep, or there could be an issue with their appetite, or they don't eat, or they eat too much. It's on both ends of it. Or the person might have obsessive compulsive behaviors, like balancing their bills. For example, the person is balancing their bills today, tomorrow, every day. It's a compulsion. They can't stop it because they want to make sure my financials are okay. So they keep doing it. Yeah. So it becomes a problem. And people might have depression.
Yeah, we talked about the frivolous givers, those who just give, and also the extreme savers, right? So all that could stem from PTSD, like traumatic issues that happened to you as you were growing up as a youngster. And now you're trying to do either the opposite of that, or you're trying to live the opposite of that. Exactly. Is that something, like, for example, someone who is an excessive giver, sometimes you wonder, I have a tendency to give, and I in so many ways I think I'm someone who gives a little bit too much of my time, my resources, and all that.
Well, that is a good quality.
It's a good quality, but
I must say.
I was talking to a family member, and I was like, I don't know why I always feel compelled to be the rescuer, to be the one to rescue someone, right? Okay. And then sometimes when you're going again to what you said, financial trauma, but when you've experienced financial abuse, because there's the physical abuse, the mental abuse, but financial abuse is something that is real.
Yes.
Those who are givers, they typically find themselves in situations where if you are dealing with a taker, an overtaker, someone who's an abuser, they could financially abuse you. So after you've dealt with that situation, how is it that, like after you've dealt with a situation like that, many times you experience the trauma for years on, right? And the trauma would lead you to maybe not behaviors that might not be the best in every situation, correct?
Yes. Either you like you said, you went through the trauma. When you are able to provide for yourself and you know that you have enough, you tend to give a lot. Or some people, they don't give, they try to save a lot.
Correct.
And some people, they overspend. It's like you kind of a little bit get out of control because you're not thinking properly, you're not balancing your stuff, you're just doing it because of what happened to you. So it's the time, once you realize you have those behaviors, it's a time for you to say, okay, I need help. But if you try on your own, you can't stop it, then you need to seek professional help.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I had mentioned with the post that I made, not everyone is aware of what's happening to them, right? So how do you seek help? I mean, like, what do you need to do? Should you wait for a friend to kind of say, hey, you might need to go and get some help because you are someone who's an overspender, or someone who's giving too much, who are excessive giver, or maybe someone who's too stingy? Because I remember years ago meeting with this lady who had gone through the Great Depression. She's no longer with us because she's experienced the Great Depression, a time where she had nothing to eat. There was very little support at the time in the country for families. And because of that experience with the Great Depression, I remember years later, I was in my 20s, and she said to me, Gabrielle, I still cannot spend. I still cannot throw food away. I still get, sometimes the food is bad. Hoarding.
She's saving it.
Yeah, she's saving it because you never know. You never know. Tomorrow might be the next Great Depression. So when you find yourself, because it's always good to be concerned, right? Being concerned is fine, but excessive concern about what could happen, and you know, having all these things happening to you on a daily basis where you're losing sleep and it's affecting your mental health, that's when you need to seek help, right? Yes. So where do you find help?
There are several coping mechanisms you can use once you realize you are in a financial trauma situation. Once you figured that out, there are several things you can do to help you. But I'm talking in regards to the financial trauma. First, you need to embrace your worth. Your financial struggles are how you are, not who you are. Correct. You are not your job title, you are not your bank account, and you are not your debts. Yeah. So you have to realize that you are your own beautiful, special person with unique gifts and talents. So that's when you need to start connect with yourself by maybe mindfulness practices, like you meditating, doing yoga, deep breathing, so you can actually get into your own mind's understanding of who you really are. So you need to embrace your worth, who you are, if you're struggling with financial trauma. And another one is manage your stress, because it's a stress. So you definitely need to deal with it. And when you stress, you don't get proper sleep, you're not hydrated, you don't exercise, you don't eat proper nutrition, you don't practice any self-care. And once you don't do that, you're going to be depressed. So it's important to manage your stress to avoid all of that.
Isolation too, because I think being able to, usually, like you said, men, but women too, sometimes they get into this isolation mindset. Like, I stay away from people. I don't want to go out to have friends. Like, I literally have heard folks say, if you go into a struggle, if you go into a situation, you shouldn't celebrate life. Literally, they're saying to someone, if you're having problems with work or even having financial problems, you shouldn't be out with your friends every once in a while for lunch. You shouldn't be going to the gym. You shouldn't be doing anything because of the fact that you ought to be home lamenting over. And the more you lament over the situation, guess what? The harder your life gets. You need to go out and celebrate and be with friends and family, and go to those Christmas parties, go to the Thanksgiving party, enjoy, you know, have a conversation with someone close to you in the family, so that you don't go stay in the, what they say, stay in the funk, right?
Yeah. Everything you just said is called self-care. You take care of yourself no matter what. You do. I always suggest to people that you need to do at least one thing a week to make you happy. And that could be getting my hair done, getting my nails done, hanging out with my friends, watching a movie, whatever you like doing, whatever that's going to make you happy, you need to find some time to do it at least one time a week.
Yeah. And you mentioned something about your self-worth and not letting perhaps society or what you perceive as where you should be in life. Because again, the financial crisis will lead to mental or depression or other clinical issues or situational depressions because of the fact that you try to measure up your life, comparing your life with other people or benchmark that perhaps you haven't catch up with. You have, the benchmark might be, oh, I'm 30. I remember talking to a young lady, she's 31, and she's like, 31, I should have had my house by now. She should have been like a supervisor or manager by now. And and I'm like, where did you get all those the benchmarks that you're working on? What did you get?
Yeah.
Well, that's what everybody else is doing. I say, everybody who? Like, tell me, give me a list of the people. She couldn't even name, but society, social media, and everything else. You mentioned, we talked about him as I was getting ready, and I was like, oh, Tyler Perry is doing great tonight or this year. And he's been doing great for a long time. And we should talk about him because you're talking about mental health issues and also money issues. This is a man, I mean, you know his story a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about his story now for where he's right now?
I think he's in a great place.
Yeah.
I hope he's enjoying it.
Yeah.
Because if he's been homeless or going through a lot of financial issues, and now he's in a position to actually give jobs to people, buying, I think he just bought MTV or something like that, right?
BT and VH1. Yeah, I think.
Wow. So this is big. He needs to celebrate. He needs to enjoy it and be happy, because not all of us, everyone's path is different.
Correct.
So I don't understand why sometimes we tend to compare ourselves with other people. My vision is not your vision. Your purpose is not my purpose. And we weren't meant to do the same thing. Imagine if everybody were doing the same thing, how boring the world would be. Correct. But everybody has their own goals, their own purpose, their own objectives. So it's not a good thing to compare yourself to people. Yeah. It's never a good thing, because you're going to add stress into your life once you do that, because you don't know how that person is living. Yeah. You don't know how they're able to make it every day. Sometimes they may look happy, but in reality, they're not happy.
Well, some people have created certain coping mechanism, and they've been able, like you said, meditating or mindfulness. Like people like me, we wake up every day and we pray. So that mechanism is helping you to navigate through life and cope through life challenges. If you go every day and you go to the gym and exercise, guess what? It helps you cope with the challenges. You could be going through the same challenges as somebody else, but because they have different coping mechanism, they're able to deal differently. And I think going back to Tyler Perry, I've read his story, I've read about his life. And for someone who had a dream, who really had to work real hard and so many times, like, he didn't get the support, he couldn't get the support, he wasn't able to finance, but he kept at it. And eventually he's where he is right now. Depression, he actually mentioned about, I remember seeing a post online where he said that if you're thinking about suicide right now, stop, because I've been there. I thought about, ending my life, when things were not going the way they were supposed to go. Well, the way I thought they were supposed to go. But guess what? I kept at it. And he believes in God. God positioned folks around him were able to help them. So going back again to you, in terms of what do you do if you find yourself dealing with mental illness or mental challenges or mental health issues because you have dealing with money issues, a job situation that's really hurting you, financial crisis that you deal with, shame that you have because you haven't made it to where you thought you would be by this time, by this age. The best thing, in my opinion, to do is to come out as well and reach out to neighbors and reach out to the community. Because you have to surprise, the more you give, the more happy you get. Yes, giving matters. Yeah.
You have to seek support. Because sometimes we think we can do everything. We are superwoman, superman. That is not true. We are just human beings. We have flaws like everybody else. So you need to seek support when you find yourself in those type of situation. You can talk about your financial challenges with your friends, with family members, or a professional who can actually lead you to resources, to assistance, or help you come up with a problem solving strategy, or maybe teach you how to budget your finances.
Correct.
You got to reach out to people. You can't just sit there and do nothing. It's going to affect your mental health. You also need to identify the triggers.
Correct.
You have to know what people, what places, what things might trigger your money trauma. You got to figure that out.
Correct.
Who's going to trigger? This person is going to trigger my money trauma. And once you figure your trigger, it can help you anticipate minefield and plan your coping strategy. Once you know that if I go to this place, this is what's going to happen, then you can plan accordingly. Maybe you don't go, or when you go, you need to be in control.
Yeah, be in control and also count your blessings. I think it's so important, because going back again to that conversation that I had with that 31-year-old person who had called me really distraught, losing her mind because things weren't as she had expected, they would be by this time, by this age. I think it's so important, like at least she called me, because at the time she was in really dire mental situation. Calling a friend that you can trust. But after she called me, I didn't just say, oh, sorry, I know you're going through a problem, there's nothing. No, I looked for help and helped her out with resources, like you said. Ask for people, talk to people who can help you with resources. And once you have the resources and you've met one goal, and you have multiple goals ahead, but if you've met one, count your blessings. I think sometimes, many times, the mental issues or the mental health situations are happening because we're not being grateful, right? So on this show, we've talked about gratefulness matters. It's very important to be grateful and count your blessings and say, yes, I was here last year, now I'm here. I have multiple goals, like Tyler Perry, he was in his car. Now he's at, beautiful home, but now he's buying multiple businesses, multi-billion-dollar businesses, and God knows where he's going. But you have to keep count your blessings wherever you are. So the objective of the show, do you have one last thing to say before we say goodbye tonight?
This one is important. To set healthy boundaries in your relationship, healthy financial boundaries. You have to set financial limits with your friends, your partner, your children, and anyone with whom you may have financial relationship. Because sometimes when you have a husband or a wife who just spend without thinking, you're going to get in trouble financially. When you have children who keep asking and you don't know how to say no to them, that's a problem. You know what I mean? You use the rent money to buy them a PS4. What's going to happen when the rent is due?
Or feeling guilty. I was talking to a lady who's from Africa, and you and I definitely relate. She's from Africa, and every month she's sending a stipend over there. And that money, if she's not able to send it because she has bills here that she needs to pay, that will take weeks to recover from, because she in her mind, she's the only help. She's the only person that they can count on. And because she feels that burden of having to be the only person, guess what? Every single day is a struggle, trying to make it here, taking care of her own personal challenges and bills here, and having to carry households overseas. So I know folks in our community, the Haitian community, they deal with that every day. We see them working multiple jobs. We see them slaving away, basically, trying to not only live the American life, the American dream, and trying to do the same thing, helping other people, family members, friends, you name it. Everybody's counting on you. So that's why healthy boundaries is very important, because guess what? The takers will take. And sometimes they are your family members, especially if they're not in this country here. They'll take, and they'll drive you crazy trying to ask for more when you're trying to work on a budget within a budget and trying to make things happen. So tonight's objective, the objective of the show, was to help viewers understand the real factors that could hinder you from achieving goals and understanding your mental health and the relationship with money and vice versa. So it's very important in order for you to maximize your potential in every area of your life. You have to understand that you need holistic health, your spiritual health, your relational health, your financial health, and your mental health. It's imperative that you work on those healthy habits that will help you get the comprehensive life that you want. We want everyone to have, to have joy. And joy, you cannot have it if you always stress about something that you either have control over or don't have control over. So thank you so much, Marlene, for being on the show tonight. I really appreciate you. Again, can you let people know you're gonna connect your Facebook page? You do a show when do you do your show? On Sunday?
It's every Sunday at 6 p.m.
Yeah, and it's in French or English?
It's in Creole. It's in Creole.
Oh, it's in Creole.
But on my YouTube channel, I do have short videos that are in English for the children or maybe for the parents. You know, there's a generation of Haitian American who barely understand Creole. So I do have short vlogs on my YouTube channel for them to see. Yeah. And I have an email address if people want to reach out, mpapin2020@gmail.com. But the most important thing is for you to live, not to just exist. You need to live. This is the life you know. You need to live. You need to be happy, because you have to remember, when one person is not happy in a household, it will affect everybody.
Yeah, misery loves company, right?
Yes,
so you don't want to be miserable, because even at work too, misery loves company. So you don't enjoy an environment that's not conducive, that's not bringing the best out of
you.
You do need to think deep. You need to think about it, and you need to strategically find ways to reposition yourself. Because repositioning yourself, whether if it's a relationship that you haven't been able to set up boundaries, you need to do that. New habits, do what you need to do, because mental health and your money matters. So please do what you need to do, because we'll be here every Wednesday at 7 o'clock to share relevant and timely information about money, life, and everything else. Because for me, when you are holistically healthy, financially, emotionally, you name it, then you are able to be better friends, better community members, and better people. We need that in this world, in this society. Thank you so much for your time. Please tag, share, make a comment. Let your friends know to like the page and subscribe to our page, all of our social media pages that we're on. Please like them, subscribe, and make a